أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
Surah 55.
Ar-Rehman.
Title. The opening word of the surah constitutes its title. In other words, the title signifies the surah's use of the word
Ar-Rehman.
Furthermore, the title is indicative of the contents of this surah, for it recounts at length the manifestations of the most compassionate Lord.
Ar-Rehman.
Period of revelation. The Quran exegetes, al-Mufassirun, generally regard it as a Makkan surah. However, some reports on the authority of Abdullah ibn Abbas, Ikrama, and Qatada speak of it as a Medinan surah. However, the same authorities are found in other reports referring to it as Makkan. Moreover, its subject matter is closer to Makkan than Medinan surahs. Its content suggests that it must have been sent down in the early Makkan phase. Several authentic reports point to its revelation in Makkah a few years before the Hijrah. Contained in the Musnad of Ahmad is this report from Asma bint Abi Bakr. I saw the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, offering salah near the Kaaba, facing the corner in which the black stone is installed. This was before Allah had asked him to make his call publicly as communicated to him in Al-Hijr 1594. In that prayer, the polytheists heard the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, reciting, "Which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?"
Ar-Rehman.
55:11. Thus, it is evident that this surah was revealed before
Surah Al-Hijr.
Al-Bazar, Ibn Jarir, Ibn al-Mundhir, Daraqutni, Ibn Mardoi, and Al-Khatib narrated Abdullah ibn Umar's report as follows. Once Surah
Ar-Rehman
was recited by the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, himself, or by someone before him, he asked those present, "Why is it so that I do not get from you the same excellent response which the jinn had given to their Lord?" They inquired him as to what that response was. He replied, "As I recited, which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?"
Ar-Rehman
55:11. The jinn responded saying, "No, we do not deny any bounty of our Lord." An identical report is narrated by Tirmidhi, Hakim, and Hafiz Abu Bakr Bazar on Jabir ibn Abdullah's authority. According to this report, when those present remained silent after listening to the recitation of Surah
Ar-Rehman,
the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told them, "When I recited this surah to the jinn who had assembled for listening to the Quran, they had given a better response than you. Whenever I recited the verse, 'Which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?' they responded saying, 'O our Lord, we do not deny any of your bounty. All praise is for you.'" One thus learns that the incident of the jinn listening to the Quran recitation occurring in
Al-Ahqaf
46:29-32 also involved the recitation of Surah
Ar-Rehman,
which the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, read as part of his prayer. The above incident happened in the 10th year of the Prophet's career. It was then that he stayed for a while at Nakhla on his return from Taif. Some reports nonetheless add that the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, was then not aware that the jinn were listening to his recitation. It was later that Allah informed him of the same. It is, however, likely that Allah then informed him also of the jinn's above-mentioned response to the recitation of Surah
Ar-Rehman.
What is clear from these reports is that Surah
Ar-Rehman
was revealed before Surahs
Al-Ahqaf
and
Al-Hijr.
Another report affirms that it is one of the early Makkan surahs. Ibn Ishaq cites Urwa ibn Zubair to this effect. One day, some companions said among themselves that the Quraysh had never heard anyone reciting the Quran aloud. "Who among us will do this?" Abdullah ibn Masud volunteered. The companions expressed their apprehension that he would be tortured by the Quraysh. Someone from an influential, powerful family should better do this, for then the fear of retaliation would restrain the Quraysh. Ibn Masud, however, insisted that he would go ahead, saying that Allah would protect him. The next morning he reached the Kaaba, around which the Quraysh chiefs were seated. While standing next to Abraham's station, he commenced the recitation of Surah.
Ar-Rehman.
It took the Quraysh chiefs some time to figure out his recitation. When they realized that this was what the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, presented as the word of God, they swooped on him and hit him badly on his face. He did not give up and persisted in reciting it as long as he could manage in the face of constant heavy thrashing. When he returned with a swollen face, companions told him that they had apprehended the same. He replied, "I now take them very lightly. If you ask me, I will recite the Quran again before them tomorrow." They, however, asked him not to do so, for he had fulfilled the wish of reciting the Quran before them. Ibn Hisham, Sirah, Volume 1, page 336. Subject matter and themes. This is the only Quranic surah in which jinn, another creature invested with free will and living on earth, is addressed directly along with human beings. Both are warned against the dire consequences of their disobedience to Allah, and their attention is drawn to Allah's creative wonders, His countless bounties, their total helplessness against Him, and their answerability to Him. They are also told about the excellent rewards for their obedience to Him. It is clear from the Quran at several places that, like human beings, jinn are an independent, accountable species that is free to choose between faith and unbelief and between surrender or rebellion. Among jinn, there are believers and unbelievers who follow or defy divine guidance, as it is with human beings. Again, like with human beings, there are communities of jinn who profess faith in the messengers and scriptures. However, it is Surah
Ar-Rehman
that explicitly states that the call of the Quran and the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, is meant for both human beings and jinn, and that the Prophet's message was not specific to human beings alone. At the beginning of the surah, the address is directed to human beings as Allah's vicegerent on earth. Messengers were appointed from among human beings, and the scriptures were sent down in human languages. However, in verse 13 and onwards, the surah addresses both human beings and jinn. The same call is presented before both. The surah comprises short sentences that follow a particular order. Verses 1 to 4 state that the teachings of the Quran are from Allah. Out of His mercy, He has imparted this guidance to humankind, for He has created them as beings endowed with the faculty of reason. Verses 5 to 6 declare that Allah manages all the affairs of the universe. All that is in the heavens and on earth obeys Him. There is no one else in the universe who has any share in Godhead. Verses 7 to 9 describe another important truth, that Allah has established the system governing the universe with perfect justice. It is therefore natural that all those inhabiting it should act justly and not disturb its natural equilibrium. Verses 10 to 25 recount Allah's creative wonders and speak of His bounties on which human beings and jinn draw. Verses 26 to 30 remind both of the truth that, in the entire universe, no one other than Allah is infinite or eternal. All things are dependent upon Him for all their needs, their existence, and their survival. Likewise, all that happens in the universe, day and night, is owing only to Him. Verses 31 to 36 warn both that the unbelievers will be soon taken to account and that they cannot escape His accountability, for He encompasses them fully. It is beyond them to flee from Him. If they are under any delusion, they may make an attempt to escape. Verses 37 to 38 clarify that answerability will be on the Day of Judgment. Verses 39 to 45 relate the end of those human beings and jinn who disobeyed Allah. Verses 46 to 78 recount at length the rewards that will be bestowed in the next life on those pious human beings and jinn who lead pious lives and act with the consciousness that one day they will have to appear before their Lord and render their account. The whole discourse is in the form of an oration and is studied with rhetoric. It is indeed a powerful, moving oration in which the amazing creations of Allah, many of His bounties, and the manifestations of His might and lordship are mentioned one by one. At each mention, human beings and jinn are asked as to which of His bounties they will deny. The expression Allah used in this context is pregnant with meaning, as it has been used in various contexts and has a special functional value each time the question is posed before human beings and jinn, as discussed in the relevant note.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim.
In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate.
Ar-Rehman.
The merciful one.
Allama al-Quran.
Has taught the Quran.
Khalaqa al-Insan.
Has created man.
Allamahu al-Bayan.
And has taught him articulate speech.
الشمس والقمر بحسبان.
The sun and the moon follow a reckoning.
والنجم والشجر يسجدان.
And the stars and the trees all prostrate themselves.
And the stars and the trees all prostrate themselves. That is, the entire universe is bound in obedience to God. Nothing, not even the sun and the moon, nor the stars and trees may deviate from this, even by as much as a hair's breadth.
وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا وَوَضَعَ الْمِيزَانَ.
And he has raised up the heaven, and has set a balance.
And he has raised up the heaven, and has set a balance. Almost all Quranic commentators have interpreted the word mizan, balance, used here to signify justice. As for the words set the balance, they have been interpreted to mean that God made justice embrace the entire universe.
أَلَّا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ.
That you may not transgress in the balance.
وَأَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانَ.
But weigh things equitably and skimp not in the balance.
But weigh things equitably and skimp not in the balance. The thrust of the statement is that since man lives in a balanced universe, one whose entire system is based on justice, he too should adhere to justice. For if he acts unjustly within the sphere in which he has been granted choice, it will be discordant with the very grain of the universe.
وَالْأَرْضَ وَضَعَهَا لِلْأَنَامِ.
And he has set up the earth for all beings.
فِيهَا فَاكِهَةٌ وَالنَّخْلُ ذَاتُ الْأَكْمَامِ.
Therein are fruit and palm trees with their dates and sheaths.
وَالْحَبُّ ذُو الْعَصْفِ وَالرَّيْحَانِ.
And a variety of corn with both husk and grain.
فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ رَبِّكُمَا تُكَذِّبَانِ.
Which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
Which of the bounties of your Lord will you twain? The word used here is Allah, which forms part of the refrain that occurs again and again in this surah. Instead of strictly adhering to one equivalent of this word, we have translated it variously depending on the context in which this word occurs. Thus, sometimes we have used the word wonders for the word Allah, verse 16. On other occasions, we have used favors, verse 25, and also laudable attributes, verse 30.
خلق الإنسان من صلصال كالفخار.
He has created man from dry rotten clay like the potters.
وخلق الجان من مارج من نار.
And has created the jinn from the flame of fire.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of the wonders of your Lord's power will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
رب المشرقين ورب المغربين.
Lord of the two easts and of the two wests is He. Lord of the two easts and of the two wests is He.
The expression, Lord of the two easts and of the two wests, possibly means the 2 points of sunrise and the 2 points of sunset on the shortest and longest days in winter and summer. Another possible meaning could be the easts and the wests of the 2 hemispheres of the earth.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the powers of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
مرج البحرين يلتقيان
He unleashed the 2 seas so that they merged together.
بينهما برزخ لا يبغيان
And yet there is a barrier between them which they may not overstep.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the wonders of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
يخرج منهما اللؤلؤ والمرجان
From these seas come forth pearls and coral.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the wonders of your Lord's power will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
وله الجوار المنشآت في البحر كالأعلام
His are the ships towering on the sea like mountains.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
كل من عليها فان
All that is on earth will perish,
ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام
only the person of your Lord, full of majesty and splendor, will endure.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
So which of the wonders of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
يسأله من في السماوات والأرض كل يوم هو في شأن
All in the heavens and the earth entreat him for their needs. A new mighty task engages him each day. A new mighty task engages him each day.
God is continually engaged in the governance of the universe, and each moment He brings into existence countless beings in ever new forms and shapes and with a variety of properties. His universe is not a static universe. It changes moment by moment, and each time its creator brings it out in new shapes and forms that vary from all previous shapes and forms.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's laudable attributes will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
سنفرغ لكم أيها الثقلان
O you twain who are a burden on the earth, we shall attend to you and call you to account. O you twain who are a burden on the earth.
Sakal denotes the burden placed on a vehicle. Sakalan is in the dual form and therefore means 2 loaded burdens.
Here, this word is used to signify jinn and humans who are both loaded on the earth. Now, since the present discourse refers to those jinn and humans who are deviant and do not render service and obedience to their Lord, they are addressed as follows. O you twain who are a burden on the earth. In other words, humans and jinn are being warned that God will turn His attention to them and take them to task.
We shall attend to you and call you to account.
This verse should not be understood to mean that at that time God was too occupied with other tasks to call His negligent servants to account. Rather, it means that God has set a specific time to call humans to their final accounting, and that time has not yet arrived.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
We shall then see which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
يا معشر الجن والإنس إن استطعتم أن تنفذوا من أقطار السماوات والأرض فانفذوا لا تنفذون إلا بسلطان.
O company of jinn and men, if you have the power to go beyond the bounds of the heavens and the earth, go beyond them. Yet you will be unable to go beyond them, for that requires infinite power. Yet you will be unable to go beyond them, for that requires infinite power. The expression, the bounds of the heavens and the earth in this verse signifies the entire universe which is a part of God's realm. The purpose of the verse is to stress that it is beyond man's power to escape God's grip. When the time for accountability about which they are being warned arrives, they will be seized wherever they might be and will be mustered to God. If they want to escape God's grip, there is only one way to do so: to flee from the universe itself, for the whole of it is entirely under God's control. But doubtlessly man does not have the power to do so, and if anyone entertains any vain illusion in that regard, they are challenged to test their power.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of your Lord's powers will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
يرسل عليكما شواظ من نار ونحاس فلا تنتصران.
If you so venture, a flame of fire and smoke shall be lashed at you, which you shall be unable to withstand.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of your Lord's powers will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فإذا انشقت السماء فكانت وردة كالدهان.
What will happen when the heaven will be split asunder and will become crimson like leather? What will happen when the heaven will be split asunder? The splitting asunder of the heaven signifies the loosening of the bonds that hold the celestial system together, the disruption of the cosmic order, and the scattering away of stars and planets.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of your Lord's powers will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيومئذ لا يسأل عن ذنبه إنس ولا جان.
On that day there will be no need to ask either men or jinn about their sins.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
We shall see which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
يعرف المجرمون بسيماهم فيؤخذ بالنواصي والأقدام.
The culprits shall be known by their marks, and shall be seized by their forelocks and their feet.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of the powers of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
هذه جهنم التي يكذب بها المجرمون.
It will be said, this is the hell that the culprits had cried lies to.
يطوفون بينها وبين حميم آن.
They will keep circling around between hell and boiling water.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان.
Which of your Lord's powers will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
ولمن خاف مقام ربه جنتان.
For any who fears to stand before his Lord are two gardens. For any who fears to stand before his Lord. The expression, for any who fears to stand before his Lord, refers to those who lived in the world being God-fearing, who always worked with the consciousness that they would one day be made to stand before God and have to render an account of their deeds to him.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
ذواتا أفنان
These gardens will abound in green blooming branches.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهما عينان تجريان
In each of the two gardens are two flowing springs.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهما من كل فاكهة زوجان
In both these is a pair of every fruit. In both these is a pair of every fruit. This verse can be understood in one of two ways. First, it might be taken to mean that the fruit of each of the two gardens will be unique. In each garden there will be fruits of a special quality clustering on branches, and in the other garden there will be fruits of a different kind. Second, that a person will find in one garden one kind of fruit with which he is familiar and had tasted during his worldly life, though in the hereafter they will be infinitely better. There will, however, also be another kind of fruit which he has not at all been acquainted in the world and which is beyond his imagination.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
متكئين على فرش بطائنها من استبرق وجنى الجنتين دان
They shall recline on couches lined with brocade, and within reach shall hang the fruits of the two gardens.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهن قاصرات الطرف لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان
In the midst of these shall be maidens with modest restrained glances, maidens whom no man or jinn has ever touched before. In the midst of these shall be maidens with modest restrained glances. This is the true quality of womenfolk, that instead of being immodest and unabashed, they should be bashful. This explains why God, in the course of his depiction of the women of paradise, accords priority to lauding their modesty and chastity rather than praising them for their beauty and attractiveness. One can find beautiful women the world over, in promiscuous clubs and film studios and carnivals of beauty, where none but the most beautiful are able to find their way. Yet such women can only be the favorites of people of decadent taste and depraved character. Women who seek to attract the attention of corrupt men and are ready to jump into every lustful man's lap have no appeal for decent people. Maidens whom no man or jinn has ever touched before. This indicates that the like righteous humans, upright jinn will also be admitted to paradise and granted female companions of their own species. Furthermore, thanks to God's infinite power, all of them shall be made virgins, maidens whom no man or jinn has ever touched before.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of your Lord's favors will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
كأنهن الياقوت والمرجان
lovely as rubies and pearls.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان
Can the reward of goodness be any other than goodness?
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the laudable attributes of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
ومن دونهما جنتان
And besides these two, there shall be two other gardens. And besides these two, there shall be two other gardens.
Probably the first two gardens will serve the purpose of lodging, whereas the other two will be for purposes of recreation and entertainment.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
مدهامتان
Two gardens, dark green and fresh.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهما عينان نضاختان
In them will be two gushing springs.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهما فاكهة ونخل ورمان
Therein will be fruits and dates and pomegranates.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
فيهن خيرات حسان
In the midst of these will be maidens, good and comely.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
حور مقصورات في الخيام
There shall be maidens sheltered in tents. There shall be maidens sheltered in tents.
These tents will possibly resemble those erected in recreational resorts earmarked for the eminent and affluent. Paradise will be full of tents wherein there will be young maidens to provide recreation and delight.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
لم يطمثهن إنس قبلهم ولا جان
No man or jinn ever touched them before.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
متكئين على رفرف خضر وعبقري حسان
They shall be reclining on green cushions and splendid carpets.
فبأي آلاء ربكما تكذبان
Which of the favors of your Lord will you twain, you men and jinn, then deny?
تبارك اسم ربك ذي الجلال والإكرام
Blessed be the name of your Lord, the Lord of majesty and glory.